right, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where, as always, we're burning the damn house down. And that house is your business, your personal relationships, your relationships with your employees, anything that is keeping you from being the champion that you're meant to be. We're burning it down. And the great thing is we bring on experts and guests to help you rebuild it. So here's what happens. Ron Nussbaum shows up. We burn the village. And then I bring somebody in like today's guest, Trevor, and he builds it back up for you. So then you become a champion. That's what this show is all about. We bring on amazing guests and they do amazing things. And today, like I said, it's no different. Trevor, it is great to have you here with us today.
I appreciate it, Ron. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome, man. Before we dive into it, why don't you tell all the construction champions out there a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I go by the Web Detective, also known as Trevor Gibbs. And primarily, I'm here, as I always tell people, I'm here to help to protect and serve your brand. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that you have. It should be a digital asset, things like your website. And quite often I found when we talk about construction people, they're great at doing their business, but they're maybe not so great at advertising or getting people to follow through, create lead generation. And one of the biggest things I've often found is that compliance, well, nobody wants to talk about compliance, do they? Come on, be honest, Rod. It's like talking to an auditor. Whatever the paper says is what it is. And why do we expect people to understand compliance? There are only a few people that do, and that's where I specialized in quite a lot. It's about promoting those people so they can be found online. I call it creating a digital thumbprint. If you create a digital thumbprint, you and I well know this. Nobody's going to look for a constructor on Facebook. They're going to Google check them. And if what comes up in those search results, well, you don't get search results these days. It's really AI answers. And if that search algorithm could give an answer saying that Ron is the builder that I need because he's my local man and I can find him, that's what I've done. I've created that thumbprint and basically we'll turn it into a footprint so you can walk over your competition.
I love it, man. I'm excited for today's conversation. We had some good chat beforehand. We've had many conversations throughout the last year or so that we've known each other. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive right in there. I'm going to ask the $1,000,000 question, and that is, what makes a construction champion? Hey, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum here, and I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of value in there, and it's a way to start getting away from Angie's List and all of that kind of stuff and start actually creating your own leads every day and have a system for them. So go on our website.
Well, a construction champion is the guy that I believe is your best collaborator. He's your best friend, because to be a champion, you've got to be a team leader. And while you're doing one aspect, you've got to be able to rely on the rest of your team to support you. I'm here to support those winners. And if you're not quite a winner, let's make you a winner. So that is what I am. That's the best construction champion I think you can be.
Absolutely. So let's create some winners, man. One of the things that really resonates with me and some of the conversations that we've had is when you talk about that thumbprint, the exposure on the web, having that footprint out there, that is something we're just not winners at having in the construction industry. Like, there's some people that do it at a really high level, but when you look across the board, it's pretty miserable out there, man.
Yes.
how do we help guys start to become a champion in this area?
Well, first thing, I know most of them are not going to like this, but you're going to have to talk to a marketer. But the point is, don't talk to a marketing agency, because probably that marketing agency is a step above or beyond where you probably are today. Good scenario that I've come across quite often. We've come across a lot of constructors who have had a website built maybe 3, 4 years ago, maybe even longer. They met a nice web designer or developer, sweet talk them, and you've got to be on the web. Don't really understand that because you're a plumber, you're an electrician, or a plasterer. Okay, it makes sense. I hear everybody's on there, but nobody's talked about how to drive people to that website. What's the importance of websites? Now, I often relate to it. I said, if you think about this, if you're going to have an index, you're going to go through the index for the things that you know. Well, that's okay. That's what Google's for. It creates an index of your website. But what people look for is trust, because the most important thing that we want as a constructor is to people to believe in the quality and that we're reliable. Your website is only going to get that by two things, or your business. One is the relationships you build up with those people. That word of mouth is going to help promote you. And then they're absolutely going to get it back onto Google and say, who is Ron? Who is Trevor? Who is the web detective? And who is the best one in local town? The best one in local town, even though it's a popular search requirement, who believes it? Who told you that you were the best one in town? Nobody. But what you want to find is that you can be trusted. And that's where I start saying a thumbprint into a footprint. Let's make sure you're not only on the social media channels, because that's where most of those agencies are taking you. And their results take 6 to 9 months before you see anything. Mine are taking you for something that you last forever, because you're progressively going to grow from a thumbprint to something which we call a knowledge panel. This might take years to do, but it doesn't take years of investment. It takes organic growth. Organic growth is mainly because of two things. One, what's the most important element that people have is time. Google measures everything in time, how long people stay on your website. If they spend 3 to 5 seconds there, it means a couple of things. It's either a badly designed website, or the taglines in the SEO part, if that's terms that people understand, which is like the search engine criterion, which they look for, says this is the website, but when people get there, they don't find the answer they're looking for. So that's one element. The other element are those reviews that you should be getting from everybody. And it's not just Google reviews. You can get them on other platforms like Facebook, Alignable, Trustpilot, and I'm sure you've got them too with those. People are going to look at the reviews. You need your clients or potential clients to spend time on your website. The longer they stay, the better your rankings come. The better your rankings, guess what? The higher up the search results you are, without having to pay for paid advertising.
So what you're saying is you need to build a site that doesn't look like somebody just threw it together in 5 minutes, because every time somebody comes on your site and they bounce really quick, it actually hurts you more than it helps you.
Correct.
I didn't know. I think I'd heard that, but I don't think I really ever thought about, like, it's the amount of time you can keep somebody on your website, and Google really takes a lot of that.
Yeah. Here's one of the styles that really throw people off. So let's say I'm looking for a plumber. And the first thing you get on there says, I'm Pete the plumber, and this is all about me. No, I came there because I want to know, how long does it take to repair my leaking toilet? What happens if I've got a leaking water system? If those are the questions that you're wanting to promote because that's what you're the expert on, that's the first thing that should be on your website. I don't care who Pete is, I care what Pete does.
Mm.
And just that moving of, this is about us, this is me, and you move that back one page and you bring forward your services. Promote what you're good at. If you're great at installing shower units and designer bathrooms, promote that first. And you look and say, if you would like an elegant bathroom fitted in 2 days for under 5 grand, I'm just making numbers up here, that would capture more people to read. I can get a bathroom that looks like 5 grand for that in 2 days. Let me read more. What have I told you that's probably not wrong? Nothing, but you've engaged them enough to read more, and that's what we're trying to promote.
It's something that's really hard to do. I mean, you think about just being engaging in conversations. A lot of people can have a hard time just keeping people engaged, say in a 30, 60-second video, engaging people with words. It's why it's so critical that you're answering their questions that they have and knowing who your customer is and what questions they're going to ask.
Mhm. Exactly. And if you think about most frequent questions, whether you could even be giving away free tips for somebody, because how many homeowners try to do it themselves before they call you a professional in? So maybe give them some tips and say, oh, if you want to replace your electrical outlet socket and it is built here, these are the 3 things that you would need to do it. This is where you do it. Make sure you isolate that. Now, if you don't feel comfortable isolating this and that, this is why you can now call me. I
Hmm.
can give you advice, or I can pop round and actually help you do it. And if you now think that you're trying to offer a partnership to the homeowner who thinks they're smart enough to do it, they're going to say, you know what? I don't want to waste an hour in traffic to go up to Home Depot and buy the parts I need because I need this special piece of equipment. I haven't got money to buy that, but I can go and buy. Okay, come on, Ron, come on over. You can do it for me because it's going to be done slightly cheaper and quicker. And at the end of the day, you're going to be the one I'm going to complain to if you got it wrong anyhow.
Well, I mean, that's the truth. And I guess why I have you here, I want to dive in because you brought something up earlier about Google with the AI and all of that stuff that's happening. Anybody that's been on Google in the last
Mhm.
3 months have watched it progressively change. What do you see happening there? What are the trends? What are stuff that guys should be thinking about right now? Because it's obviously changing like every day.
Well, yes, changes every year, every 6 months. You've got to think about what are people looking for. Provide that answer, provide the engagement which we've mentioned. The other things you've got to think of is styling. Now, one of the areas that I focus on is called accessibility. We all in the construction industry, we know about making a brick and mortar place accessible to people with disabilities. Your website has a legal requirement as well. And I'll talk about people with non-disabilities because that way we realize that all of us can use this user interface. Theoretically, most of us is going to suffer with cataracts in our life at one point or another. What happens when you get to a website where you've got a nice white background and some light gray text, and then you've got some little small buttons to click on, and now I'm trying to chase this little white mouse around with a little black line around it to click on call me, or I want one of those and one of those as what we call radio buttons, select color blue, also select number 1 or 2. It reminds me of those little games we used to get out of what we call a jamboree bag. I don't know if you know what a jamboree bag is, but it's like a little plastic acrylic box with 5 balls and you chase it round by tiers and
Mhm.
you could never get the last one in the hole, could you? It's the same thing on a website. If it's poorly designed and my vision isn't great, why am I going to stay there when I can go to another website that has better color interactions or maybe larger buttons? And Google realizes that websites that are not so accessible are not going to get ranked so high as those are.
Hmm.
Now, there is like I said, there's a legal requirement. I don't want to scare people into the ambulance chasers, and you may have heard stories like that. But if you're making a website to be engaging, think about how you would react to that. Most of our grandparents didn't grow up in the age of technology. So trying to navigate or what they need to find on a website, if it's not clear and simple right at the forefront of that page, why would I bounce to another website? Because I don't know, it might be hidden on another page. That is where Google's changing. It's trying to give you answers to the questions that I asked, because before it would always give, oh, here are the next 10 top websites that have been visited in the plumbers section of your town. Where now, if you answer a question, how to refit a bathroom in 5 days, or how long does it take to refit a bathroom? If that's the answer to your question and that's what's being Googled, your site is going to come out with the top one answer.
Mm. It,
So it comes out with answers and not a list of possible likes or possible answers that you may want.
well, it seems like they're really going in the direction of they want to create an amazing experience for their end user, which is the person doing the searching. So they want their recommendations to be as close to perfect as possible. And if you can fall into that by
Yeah.
offering the answers, you stand to be I have some stuff that hits really high on Google and it blows my mind, like the difference in how much traffic Google will send your way when you
Yeah.
answer somebody's questions to specific questions and you just answer them simply
Yeah.
and people click on it and go there. What really happens, and I've just recently had it happen here on a couple blogs that we put out, and it's truly amazing how that ranking and what Google would do to put organically, like we sponsor nothing, just organic traffic that Google will funnel to your site because you're helping their end user get the answer to their question.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what this type of marketing is about. It's called organic. It's creating a thumbprint. Because once I like what I see by reviews, and I can see that embedded into your site because they're live, they're clickable. People make decisions very quickly. A lot of it by reviews. If you say, "Oh, check out my reviews on my Google page," and you take them away from your website, well, where is that Google business page? It's
Mm.
on the listing of where you originally left with all your competitors on. Why would you want to send them back to view your other competitors? You see what I mean? So if we bring all
I
those reviews into,
100% like that that makes so much, but we see it all the time. Is like you can check out
yep,
my reviews on Facebook, you can check out my reviews on Google. They're
mm-hmm,
just not there in the website. And
yeah,
what you just said is like, okay, so now you get somebody engaged, and you're like, it's like if you ran a gas station, you had them engaged, and you're like, oh, this customer across the street at the Speedway, they had an
yep,
amazing experience. I'm going to walk you over there and let you meet them. And you move
exactly.
them out of your gas station.
Mm-hmm,
It's
yep, you got it. Exactly that. It's
that
incredible
it's
how you don't think of the basic logics of marketing. See, I've been doing marketing for 4 years now. And it was always about how do we engage the client? How do we invoke the answer that we all looked for in that back in 20 odd years? It was yes. But if you can't give them a compelling story or a reason to read and say yes to your questions that would you like to work with me? Yes, I would. Why do you want to work with me? You justify that. Yes. And that's what you're looking for. You're converting that mind to think, yes, this is a person that seems to be caring for me, not talking about their qualifications all the time and how smart they are and the best in town, because nobody believes you're the best in town. I'm sorry,
everybody's
guys.
the number one. Anywhere you
Everybody's number
go,
one. Yep.
award-winning number one.
Yes. Does everybody believe that today? No, they don't.
And for everybody listen, like you know what questions your customers are asking. You know what they're
Yep.
searching for. Like when you go to somebody's house and you consistently hear the same five questions, chances are they're probably also looking those questions up on Google, and it presents an opportunity for you to be able to answer those, make them specific answers to your area. Like where I'm at in North Carolina, like if I had a poor company, I'd be writing blogs and putting out stuff that had to do with installing, like if I installing a pool in North
Mhm.
Carolina and
Yep.
answering every question I ever had a customer ask.
Mhm. And did you know that Google loves FAQs? It loves for your website to have frequently asked questions. And how many websites, especially when you look at construction websites, have got an FAQ section built in there? Very few.
Yes, very. I just learned that this week because our
Mm,
site or our main site does not have an FAQ section on it. I have an FAQ section on another site,
mhm.
but I learned that this week is that Google wants FA like that they take that
Mhm.
information and it's some of that stuff's what goes into their search results and stuff is
Correct.
your
Correct.
FAQs.
Yeah, exactly, because it's an answer to a question.
And I would
That's what Google
say
wants.
99% of construction sites, if we were going
Mhm.
to go out and just did a quick review, if the site worked appropriately, 99% of them probably don't have FAQs on
Probably not.
them.
Probably not. Yeah, I think if we were hoping to win the lottery with that one, we wouldn't. We'd be the one with the four numbers that come out. Oh, I just need two more. No, you're not going to get them because there ain't there.
Yeah, no, I don't like, and that's a pretty common. I think what we have to do, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is like we look at our website too much like a brick and mortar, and it's
Hmm.
not. It's a
No.
digital footprint, and you can't try to
Yes.
take what you would do at a brick and mortar and move it into a website. But that's what we do in constructions.
Yes.
We treat it like it's a brick and mortar, and that
Hmm.
does not
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, you kind of build it in the same way. Where here's my door entrance. These are all my
Yeah.
offers. Here's the products that I've got. Here's the services I've got. And at the back here are the things that I used to do 20 years ago. It doesn't quite work that way, people. But if you want to think of it logically like that, you can. But your competition has probably met somebody else who now knows about building digital thumbprints.
I love it. I love it, man. You're doing great things. This has been super educational for everybody listening. For all the champions out there, if they wanted to connect with you, follow you, learn more about what you do, where's the best
Mhm.
places for them to do that?
Well, I'm on the standard platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Alignable. You'll find me there. You can look for the Web Detective. You can look for Trevor Gibbs. You'll find me there. Those are the best ones. Of course, I got QR codes on my screen, so people can always pick up one of those and scan that, and that will help them. But I like to give something away if people actually think, well, I want to do my own website. I've found some tips here. What is the second largest search engine around? Do you know, Ron?
If I would say the second largest, I would immediately think of Bing.
No, it's YouTube.
Oh,
YouTube is the second largest search engine. So if you've got a YouTube channel because you like to show people the work in which you're doing in construction, why haven't you embedded those videos onto your website? Because the same criteria when you're searching could actually take you to your website from a YouTube search as opposed to a Google search. All you've got to do is know how to embed them properly. Because a lot of people, when you've watched one video, and I'm sure you've seen this on about 90% of the videos you watch the video, you get to the end of it, oh, that was interesting. And all of a sudden, that little screen fills up with 8 little options of icons of all the past content or similar content you've watched. And you go, oh, yeah, look, there's a cooking recipe, or there's a car mechanic video I'd like to watch. And the person that suddenly watched your DIY top 5 tips has now left your website because they're now on somebody else's YouTube channel. There are ways to prevent that from happening. Again, keeping people engaged on your site, and you now build a directory of your YouTube channel in your website.
mm. Yeah,
So
no,
if
I love
anybody
that.
feels brave to do it, themselves, try. This is an extra way to get some better search results. But of course, I would be calling a plumber to do my toilet. I'd hope somebody wants to call the web detective to come and help them to build their thumbprint.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Is you should have people that understand how to do this, doing it. And I have been down the road of embedding YouTube videos into my website before, and let's just say I ended up hiring somebody. And for everybody listening, don't even bother. Like, just call Trevor. Like, it's a pain in the ass to do it
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Mhm.
it can be done. when it not right pretty easily, but to do it right, it can really be a pain in the ass if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Awesome,
So I thought
man.
I'd share that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for allowing us to share some tips and learn a little bit more about each other.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag. Where I want to ask the question of one, if I went on your website right now, would it work? Two, if I went on your website and it did work, what would be my first impression? What would I think you didn't do? Does it look like it was built in the 90s and doesn't have any relevancy to what I'm doing currently? Websites are they're not a tricky thing. I say tricky thing in the construction space because it's something that a lot of times guys just have done and then they just walk away from it. And a lot of times you end up with a domain email and then you never check it because you never have access to it because you just I love what Trevor said at the beginning, where like if you go jump to a marketing agency, that you're not there. It's like if you are the finished carpentry and you come in to do the framing, or at the time when the framing needs to be done, like it's not ready for you. So you always have to be looking at is where are we at? If I go hire a marketing agency, am I ready for what they're going to be able to do? Because we've had this conversation on here before. Is like I 100% think we should hire experts to do the stuff that we do not understand how to do. It's why they're experts in it. It's just like why we're experts at what we do. We go find experts. But if you're going to hire a marketing agency, you have to be prepared for my biggest thing I always say is the damn leads. It's can you even handle the leads they're going to bring in? But that's beyond the point. Start with just getting that footprint or that thumbprint together and right. Like I said, you'd be surprised by just making this stuff right, how good Google could actually treat you without even spending any money on ads. Like you can, it's really amazing. Just answer your customers' questions. You're answering them every day at the house. You don't even have to do it. Take this magical thing that we have right here and just talk into it and say, this is the conversation I just had. Create a recording of it and have somebody write it into something. So then you have it and you're answering the questions. It's easy. It's just a different way of thinking. So get out there, get it done. Make sure you go check out all of our fantastic sponsors. And until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.
Ever found yourself revisiting a project because of a small miscommunication? It's frustrating and costly. That's why I switched to BuilderComms. Their construction communication management solution cuts through the noise, ensuring my team is always on the same page. Now, missteps are rare and rework is a thing of the past. Ready to streamline your projects? Check out BuilderComms today.
Using HomeTrack, we create digital new home profiles using homeowner specifications, pictures, and warranty policies, replacing the large paper binders normally provided by home builders to their buyers. We also digitize the final blue tape walkthrough and instantly create a punch list that both builders and homeowners can track until a resolution. By simplifying the handover process, we are saving home builders time and money.